I can't tell you how hard it is to interrupt you. It is so, no, I don't mean difficult. I mean unfortunate. I love seeing you all talking with each other and connecting with folks that you haven't seen for a while, and so many smiles on faces. It is just so nice to see you all and see you all here, especially for the dedication of the Leonard D. Fromm Office of Student Affairs, which, as we all know, is both a celebration and also a memorialization of an incredible life and incredible contributions to this school that are innumerable and immeasurable. Len Fromm was an absolute beacon for this law school, and we are so grateful, all of us who knew him, and trust me, those of you who didn't know him, you are also grateful, because his legacy lives in this law school. It lives in the ether of this law school, and it continues to permeate all of our thoughts about how we engage with our students and the responsibilities we have to them and the ways that we build relationships with them. And so even for those of you who didn't have the tremendous opportunity of getting to know Len Fromm, you are benefiting from him still. And I know that that will be true for anyone who comes through this law school for decades to come. So I do want to thank you all for being here. It is really just great to look around the room and see faces that I know. And I know that many of you traveled from far away in order to be here with us today. And so on behalf of the law school, I want to say that we are honored and we are grateful that you are here. So it is just truly, especially an honor to recognize Len's family that is in attendance. Donna Wilbur Fromm, Eric Fromm, his wife Kira, and his sister Callan, who was not able to join us. We are really grateful that you're here, and it's really nice to be able to celebrate this with you. So thank you for being here. My job here is really to serve as MC. So I am going to move directly to the introduction of our first speaker today, who is Mark Mead. Mark is a clinical professor here at the Maurer School of Law. He is the director of our Elmore Entrepreneurship Law Clinic, and he is also the faculty director of our JD MBA program. And he has not yet. He is a wonderful mentor to our students, particularly those that are interested in business law, and also works just tremendously well with many of our alums, and we're really grateful to Mark for his incredible service. In addition to that, he was also recently appointed to be a venture legal analyst in residence for the IU Ventures enterprise. And at the beginning of the day today, I had Mark's picture on the screen, and Mark was instrumental in ensuring that we got an IU Ventures Fellows program rolling for our students. So students are able to engage in venture capital deals while they're still in law school. So thank you for that. So Mark Mead, everyone.
Of course, thank you, Interim Dean McFadden, and thank you for everyone who's come. And Interim Dean McFadden, Interim Dean Ochoa. Yes. Is that a Freudian slip? You'll know who I'm going to introduce, right? I put Dean in front of the Associate Dean as well. Apologies, Interim Dean Ochoa. And fingers crossed behind the podium here as well. So, yeah. Did he say that out loud? I don't know if it's a resources issue or otherwise, but I think if you wanted someone to come speak about Len, you'd probably look for someone that he touched as an undergrad, maybe someone that he touched during law school, someone that he touched and helped and mentored as a faculty member, and maybe someone in their career as well. And maybe it's a resources issue, but they asked me to speak because they get all four with me, which might mean I'm going to speak a little bit longer than I'm supposed to, but we'll look for efficiency there. Dean Ochoa said it right. Len's everywhere. He's certainly in my ether. He's everywhere in my life, in my professional life, and in my personal life. And I was even thinking when I was getting ready to come here today, my colleagues will tell you that they don't recognize me in a suit and tie. I was putting on my tie today and tying a tie, and I'll be honest, remembering how to tie a tie, and as I want to do, immediately think of Len. Among the million stories I could tell about Len, I can remember sitting up at Nick's with a group of students and Len remarking how nicely my tie was tied accusing me of not tying it myself, and then challenging me in front of the students to tie the tie again with my eyes closed and betting a beer on it. And he lost and he paid. And he did what he did. He threw his head back and laughed that great laugh that he would laugh, and didn't mind losing the bet at all. Sometimes there's that person in your life that says just one thing, just a single sentence to you, just one sentence, and changes the path of your life and your career. For me, that person and that single conversation took place on this campus 34 years ago. And the thing is, the worst part of it is, I can't remember who that person is. I can't remember their name or who they were. Yeah, that was supposed to trick you a little bit if you wondered there. I do remember what that person said to me. I was fall of 1987, fall of 1988. I was an undergrad about to get a degree in physics. I didn't want to go to medical school. I didn't want to go to engineering. I didn't want to go to Purdue. I got to say that. Didn't know what I wanted to do next. And somebody, I wish I know who I could thank, said that one sentence to me. And they said, there's a guy you need to go see, Len Fromm. He's in the basement of the law school. Go over there and talk to him, and he'll help you out. And I did. So 1989, Mark Need made an appointment and walked over to the basement of the law school. And some of you in the room might remember where the door to Len's office used to be. It's now a locked door that we can't access anymore. I walked in, I said hello to Dale. You remember Dale? And I sat on those chairs outside of Len's door, and I waited. And when I went in, Len took his time and he heard my story, and he asked all about me, and he proposed a solution, in this case, the JD MBA program for me that was suited to me, that was for me. I did look into it. I applied. I joined both programs in the fall of 1988. When I made my way over to the law school as a student in 89, if I had any problems coordinating classes between the two schools, I went over to that same door and sat on those same chairs and waited. And sure enough, Len would come out and I would go in and he would propose a solution that worked for me and make it right. And when I had a question about my grades during, say, 2L year, I wasn't the greatest student around, had a problem in a class. You know what I'm going to say? I went over and sat in those chairs outside of his door and waited, and went in, and he listened to my story and proposed a solution that was for me and worked for me. And like so many other alums, Len was there for me again and again as a student, addressing my law school anxieties, helping me with career ideas, making contacts in his network for me, and just generally dealing with me by having me sit in those chairs and wait for him, and then suggesting a solution that would work for me. So I know that a mark of a great person and a great life and an amazing life of mentoring is one sign of that is that everyone thinks that they were that person's favorite, right? Which of course isn't possible, but I've got bad news for everybody in the room. Today seemed like a pretty good day to announce it, given what we're here. I was Len Fromm's favorite. I'm sorry to all of you. That just was the case. On several occasions during the next, what I'll say, 14, 15 years of my practice, I called Len with a question or a request or a request for a connection to an alum that might be able to help with the matter. Sometimes drove down from Indianapolis and sat in those chairs and waited for him to take me in and make a suggestion that worked for me and have a solution. And over the course of several phone calls and a few dinners here and there, and certainly some beers along the way, he did that again and again. In 2006, I was practicing, and my cell phone rang, and it was Len. And he said that the law school was launching an entrepreneurship law clinic, and that it was just what I'd been doing in my practice, and that it wasn't up to him, but that I should throw my name in the ring, throw my name in the hat. So I came down and sat in those chairs and waited, and then eventually went in to see him. And he talked to me about the interview process and what it would look like, and told me it was a faculty vote, and proposed a couple ideas that were solutions that would work for me in my pitch. And here I am, 16 years later. But it didn't end there. When I joined this side of the fence, if you will, on the faculty, as a member of the faculty, I would encounter one of those unanswerable questions that seemed completely unique about a particular student, a program, or another problem. And I'd call and I'd make an appointment and I'd go sit in those chairs outside of his door and wait. And then he would call me in and ask me what was going on and propose a solution that was suited to me and worked for me. Quick story in that regard. One thing I learned when I joined the faculty side of things and fell madly in love with my job here was that my mentor could also create some anxiety for me. I love this job so much. And those first few years Lynn would sometimes call and leave a voicemail on my phone and just say, "Hey, Mark, it's Lynn. When you have a few minutes, you need to stop by the office." And I go, oh my God, like, this is bad. This can't be good, right? The other shoe is dropped, and they're going to be there with a banker's box and ask me to pack it and be on my way. And I'd stop by and wait in those chairs and go in, and it invariably would be him trying to connect a student to a position or connect to somebody in my network, always trying to help a student on that side. Nothing else. It was always fine. But I would panic every time anyway. I told Lynn just before he retired that he had to stop leaving me those messages to meet with him without an explanation of what the purpose was, that it just instilled fear in me until we could finally sit down. Shortly before his retirement, and I have every reason to believe that he knew exactly what he was doing, he left me a cell phone message that said, "I keep thinking of you. Stop by and see me when you have a minute." Oh no. So terrified as always, I stepped into his office, sat in those chairs for a few minutes, waited until some students came through, saw my opportunity, stuck my head in his office, and Len was there and he waved me in, shut the door behind you, and I shut the door, thought, here we go. And he looked at me and he said, "Been thinking of you. Have you heard the new Paul Simon record? It's amazing." He was going to the show. I think Paul Simon was touring here. Couldn't wait to talk to me about the new Paul Simon record. Anyway, my absolute honor to be here today. Apologies to Dean Ochoa for thinking about my introduction coming up and mixing those together. I'm happy to be here to dedicate this space to Len and to his amazing career, especially knowing that there are literally thousands of alums who would happily stand here and tell their own stories of Len's friendship and professional guidance. I hope I'm representing all of them. In terms of introductions, if you want to imagine a burden, a career burden like none of us may have had before, Dean Ann McFadden, who had to step into some big shoes, perhaps literally and figuratively, as they say, is here in some succession with Professor Orenstein serving in an interim role in between. I can't imagine what that burden's like, given how everybody really owes so much of their career and personal lives to Len as well. I couldn't find it. I looked for it today, and Dan Kunkel, who's out there somewhere, there's Dan, might remember this discussion at the university presentation. The university presentation, I was trying to think, this would be my advice to Dean McFadden. I was trying to think, what have I learned from Len when he's not here and I can't go down and knock on that door and talk to him anymore? And I fashioned a bracelet that said WWLD. What would Len do? And I think it's pretty good advice, right, for all of us when we're in one of those jams here at school or maybe otherwise, to ask ourselves, what would Len do in this situation? So Ann, I would suggest to you, you're doing a great job so far. What would Len do, right? We have a frequent discussion every couple of years, it seems, around the faculty about who's the customer of the law school. Is it the student? Is it the body of scholarship? Is it the recruiters? Is it the practicing attorneys? And of course, there are differing opinions all over the place. Len would have answered that question one way, and it was about the students. And what are we, 3-4 years in, Dean McFadden? And I would say, I can comfortably say the exact same thing about Dean Ann McFadden. Ann joined the law school in 2018 as an assistant dean for career services. In 2021, Ann was named assistant dean for student services and dean of students. And in that role, she supervises the work of the Leonard D. Fromm Office for Student Affairs. Prior to joining the law school, Ann served as a senior career leader in the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division. Ann is the 2019 recipient of the law school's Leonard D. Fromm Public Interest Faculty Award, and she was selected by the classes of 2020, 2021, and 2022 as the recipient of the Gavel Award for her outstanding contribution to student life, a worthy successor. Again, around the faculty, students are our customer. Len believed that. I know that Ann believes that, and what a great fit she's been to take on this important role. So please welcome Dean Ann McFadden.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that introduction. And I was relieved to learn that I haven't also been added the title of Dean of this law school to my portfolio, which seemed to be growing every year for a little while there. But as Mark mentioned, when I first joined IU, it was as the Assistant Dean for Career Services. And I also teach the first semester Legal Profession 1 class, which I understand that Len was really instrumental in starting. A year and a half ago, Dean Parrish asked me to take on a new combined role as Assistant Dean for Student Services. And in this role, I am responsible for student affairs, career services, our student-facing DEI efforts, diversity, equity, and inclusion program. So since that time, people have asked me, well, what is your job now? What do you do now? And every time I've introduced myself to an alum or to a friend of the law school or anyone who was here during Lynn Fromm's time, I end my explanation of my duties as, I'm kind of like the new Lynn Fromm. And so not only does this seem to make everything, oh yeah, click in people's minds, but without exception, the eyes of every single person to whom I have said that name light up because they know what a special person he was. And they share with me a very special memory of how Dean Fromm made their law school experience a better one. Dean Fromm touched so many students' lives, from my conversations with alumni, faculty, and staff, who all got the honor of being here during his tenure. I can understand the depth and the breadth of his impact on our community. The thing that impresses me most, and I think the thing that I try to emulate as best as I can, is how he got to know students as individuals. He recognized that they came to us with unique life circumstances, responsibilities, and outside pressures. He found ways to connect deeply with those students, to understand their individual goals, like with Mark, finding the thing that worked for him, and also the things that stood in the way of those goals. And he worked to help overcome those challenges and help to make those students be successful. I've heard countless stories of Dean Fromm helping students make rent during difficult financial circumstance, talking students through difficult interpersonal issues, giving a needed pep talk to boost confidence prior to exams or after exams, and making connections to employers to help students get valuable legal experience and ultimately employment. It's through this lens that all of us in what we have rechristened the basement of the law school as the garden suite do our work. As academic, personal, financial, and career advisors, we aim to get to know each student as an individual, recognize that they come to us with unique identities, experiences, and goals, and help them overcome obstacles and make good choices academically, personally, financially, and professionally, and ultimately thrive as valuable members of the legal community. It is one of the biggest regrets I have that I was never able to meet Dean Fromm, but I'm honored that I received the Lynn Fromm Public Interest Award in 2019. And I'm honored to serve students as part of the Garden Suite team, and especially in the Leonard D. Fromm Office for Student Affairs. My greatest hope is that when future alumni think back to their time at Mauer, they'll recall the efforts of our combined student services team as fondly as past alumni do Dean Fromm's. Thank you to Dean Fromm's family for being here and for sharing your amazing husband and father with generations of Mauer students. Sorry, I ran away. I got so overwhelmed. I was going to go up to the Dean Suite and take my rightful spot. So it is my distinct privilege and honor to introduce your SBA, Student Bar Association President, Alexa Rojas. Alexa is from the Chicagoland area, and she has set her sights on a career protecting the most vulnerable in our world, the children. She wants to work for DCS, and I admire her so much for that. She's currently working for the Attorney General's office, and she's also spent time volunteering with many of our student orgs here at IU, including PILF, LALSA, and Outlaw, and she's spent countless hours with our Protective Order Project. So I'm very pleased to be able to introduce her to you, and she will offer you a student's perspective.
Thank you so much, Dean McFadden. Good afternoon. I was not lucky enough to meet Dean Fromm. Still, my fellow students and I have felt his legacy echo on in a myriad of our law school experiences. Many students, for example, recognize and have incorporated into their lives the Fromm Six. Whether it's from Professor Henderson's ethics course or maybe PGA trainings, his 6 ideals have impacted many students' approach to both lawyering and life. We also feel his legacy in the way that the Office of Student Affairs operates today. Dean Fromm treated each student like an individual and not a number. Today, Dean McFadden spearheads an incredible team that is dedicated to helping students succeed. My peers have turned to OSA with a wide range of concerns. OSA opens their door for active peer advising, an initiative started by Dean Fromm, and they open their door to help students tailor their academic schedules for success based upon their individual goals. When students are concerned about finances, They can turn to Mauer for an application to the Leonard D. Fromm Emergency Fund. When tragedy strikes and there's an incapacitating medical or family emergency, OSA does all it can to genuinely support its students. The student-centered approach to administration has created an unparalleled environment here at Mauer. I can stand before you all and confidently say that the Office of Student Affairs is invested in each and every one of our successes as a student and as a holistic person. That is really such a special thing, and it's thanks largely in part to the legacy of Dean Fromm. One especially notable manner that students experience Dean Fromm's legacy through is through the PG program. Each year, students are welcomed into these groups at orientation. These groups serve as your first interaction with your new colleagues as you enter into the Mauer community. Each small group is led by an upper division student and acts as a mentor to these students. And these groups meet throughout the first year. The PG program impacted my life in a way I'm not even sure Dean Fromm could have foreseen. I started 1L in 2020, the peak of the pandemic. I was scheduled to visit Bloomington for Admitted Students Day in March, but that was canceled as the pandemic first reared its head. Come August, I was moving into a town I had never stepped foot in, and I was anxious I wouldn't be able to find a sense of community and connection given the circumstances of 2020. However, I was assigned into a PG group on the first day of orientation. Suddenly, I had a little community here in Mauer. Being that we were all new, a sense of inherent trust formed amongst us. We did so many fun and productive things. We met with a student from Career Services, which made us realize how accessible the CSO office was. We played an online game called Among Us together, and we were able to let go, laugh, and truly unplug and enjoy ourselves together. We shared notes and outlines and leaned on each other when law school got stressful. To this day, I'm still close with many of my PG group members, and I owe that all and much more to Dean Fromm's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you to Mark and to Anne and to Alexa for your comments. I love hearing people's stories and just examples of what I said at the beginning, which is that Len's his legacy just lives with us in so many ways. I'm actually confident that if we were to go around the room, we could be here for an all-nighter hearing everyone's stories, and that might be a really great all-nighter. I think he might want to have a beer involved. So it is now actually my pleasure to introduce my dear colleague, Aviva Orenstein. As Mark said, Aviva stepped into the interim role of directing the Office of Student Affairs, and we were incredibly grateful for her leadership during that time and for the stewardship that she had of our students and of that office during that time. Dean Orenstein holds the chair, the Donald and Karen Lake Buttry Chair, and is also is obviously a professor of law here as well. She was, as I said, appointed the Associate Dean for Students and Academic Affairs in 2018 and served as the Associate Dean for Students from 2018 to 2021. She writes and she teaches beautifully and eloquently and astutely in the areas of civil procedure and occasionally also in family law. And I'm not sure who put that occasionally in there. I've learned so much from you in the area of family law. I think that was me, but I don't know why. She also has directed our child advocacy clinic, and she founded and supervises the Outreach for Legal Literacy program, which brings law students, where law students teach constitutional law and civics to local fifth grade students, and my own children got to benefit from that program. So thank you for that. And Aviva has also been a recipient of the Fromm Public Interest Law Foundation Award. And we are so grateful that you are here today, and I can't wait to hear from you as well.
It's my honor and deep pleasure to be at this dedication of the Len Fromm Office for Student Affairs. As Dean Ochoa mentioned, I served in the role of Dean for Students for 3 years. And I have to tell you that I've always thought of it as the Len Fromm Office. I envision myself as a caretaker and guardian of Len's legacy and his approach to the job. And Mark, you said it perfectly. When I was faced with a tough problem, I would ask myself, what would Len do? I've been on the faculty since 1992, before most of our current law students were born. In fact, I recently had the thrill of teaching someone in evidence whose dad was in my evidence class. In other words, I've been here a long time and I'm very old. I learned early in my career here at Maurer School of Law, before it was even called the Maurer School of Law, that I should just do whatever Len told me to do. He had great judgment, great instincts, and he really knew the students. And as others have said, he knew every single student, an accomplishment I tried to emulate, and I still have the flashcards to prove it, but was never able to match. Len deeply believed in community and fostered a sense of belonging before that came to be the buzzword it is today. We are an excellent law school, but there are many excellent law schools. One thing that makes us special, and I might even say unique, is the community we have created and the ethos of kindness and support that complements our dedication to justice, professionalism, and intellectual rigor. There is no single person more responsible for creating the uniquely supportive community that we celebrate here at Maurer than Len Fromm. Len led with love, a word I don't use trivially or lightly. Love. Len wasn't just kind of nice, and certainly he was not a pushover, but he was helpful and supportive. He took the time to get to know our students as full human beings, something that Ann McFadden mentioned as well, and not just people passing through and taking classes. Len was deeply involved, which didn't always mean giving students exactly what they asked for. Instead, he worked with the students empathetically and creatively to meet the students' goals and make their personal and professional dreams happen. Sometimes this meant communicating hard truths or instructing students in professional conduct, but all of it emanated from love and the deep kind of generous love that is eager to truly listen, to know the other, and to work for their best interests. I was present at the creation, I won't stop there. I was present at the creation of the practice group program, which Alexa described so beautifully. Len and Lauren Rebel created this jewel in our crown to capitalize on and enhance our sense of community and to orient students over the course of the first year. The program is great for many reasons, not the least of which is that it evens the playing field for people who don't have lawyers in their families or who don't know Bloomington. With the practice group, there's a safe upper class student available to answer all the dumb questions. The PG program also provides ready-made colleague cohort for reviewing materials and socializing. Now, some of you may remember that Lauren Rebel, the co-creator of the PG program, was the provost of the Bloomington campus and dean of our law school. What some of you may not know is that, and she has given her eager consent for me to tell you about this, is that she almost dropped out of law school. Lauren was here as a law student with her young daughter and not enough funds to survive. She went to Len's office to inform him that she couldn't make it and would have to quit law school. Len quickly arranged for emergency financial support. Those were the good old days when Len would actually walk the hall with 50s in his pocket to help destitute students make it until their loans came through. Lauren claims, and I believe her, that if not for Len's prompt and effective intervention, she would have quit law school. Think of all IU would have lost. And what's truly amazing is that there are many people, as Mark indicated, with very similar stories about how Len's guidance and prompt action were pivotal in directing their lives, altering the course of their futures to their immense benefit. All of us owe Len a huge debt of gratitude. Even those in our community who were not fortunate enough to know him personally can appreciate that much of what is precious about our school emanated from and was perpetuated by his leadership. He always insisted that he was the dean for students, not the dean of them. I am happy to report that I concur entirely that Dean McFadden, though she never met Len, has embodied his spirit and philosophy. Support, kindness, efficiency, and professionalism are the hallmarks of her deanship and her office. The Len Fromm Office for Student Affairs is in excellent hands, and you are rightfully beloved and respected by our students. I think the only missing element in your portfolio is that you need to learn to play the accordion. As Len did memorably at the Balsa Gong Show after more than a couple of beers. Now, Donna and Eric, nothing will fill the immense hole that Len's passing has created in your life. But I hope it brings you a measure of comfort and satisfaction that his legacy is remembered and venerated at our law school. His influence is still strong. We'll never know all the good that he performed, but we love and appreciate Len Fromm. I'm delighted that I will pass his name on the wall as I enter the office of the Office for Student Affairs. Len will forever serve as a model and inspiration about how we can be of true service to our students, our school, and the legal profession.
My colleagues have said such beautiful things about Len, and I have very little to add, actually, because as I've listened, I had a few points that I wanted to make sure came through in the remarks today, and really almost all of them have been said. I want to stress really the importance of that Fromm Emergency Fund. The number of people that I've talked to, alums and students that continue to benefit from that emergency fund is innumerable, and each of them have a story to tell of that pivotal sort, really a critical time in their lives, a financial pinch, a crisis in their families or in their own personal lives that almost drove them out of law school. And it is one of the things that makes me so proud to be associated with this law school, that we have a beating heart as an institution that is real and it is palpable and it is part of our identity. And I'm sure for those of you who went to law schools other than this one, you can only wish that you would have had such a thing in your institutions. It is truly remarkable, and I have to believe maybe it is not singular, but it is really, really special, and we're so fortunate. And that is, obviously it's not only the emergency fund, right? It's also, we've created the Fromm Fund. The Fromm Fund was established after Len's passing, and alums poured in to commemorate Len's legacy, and that fund has raised over $400,000, which is wonderful and benefits students every day at this law school. And so we're obviously tremendously grateful for the commemoration and the symbolic commemoration of Len's life from our alums in that way. So I do want to welcome Professor Orenstein back up to the podium. And I want to also thank you all for joining us. But first, we want to reveal the plaque that will stand outside of the office. Thank you again for joining us, and please join us outside for a reception. We will be there until you're ready to disperse. Thank you so much for coming.